Hello, today I'll be talking about the game Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. This game came out in 2014. I think I acquired it in 2017. Played it a few times solo. I've never played this with any other players. And when I say I play it solo, I play it as if I'm playing with three different players. You know, if you've seen my videos, you know that's how I normally do. Um, So I hadn't played it in a while, and figured I'd pull it out and do a video on it. So let's get started with how to set up. First thing you'll do is unroll the game mat. It's like a neoprene mat. At least I don't know if there's new versions of this. You know, as I said, this came out in 2014. I got it in 2017. I'm pretty sure there's some expansions for this game which I don't have, but anyway, the version I have has this neoprene, kind of thin neoprene game mat. So first thing you'll do is pull that out. You'll take your specialist deck. They're all the same. They just say specialist character. They all have the same back. All the cards in this game have the same back. So you'll take out your specialist deck and deal 7 specialists to each player. I'm setting up for a 3-player game, so I've dealt 7 specialists to each player. Any leftover specialists can just go back in the box. Next, you'll take your grunt character cards. Again, they're all the same. And you'll deal 5 of these to each player. So that will give each player a total of 12 cards currently, 7 specialists and 5 grunts. Each player will then select one of the 10 roles. You have gunner, technician, researcher, commander, mercenary, priest, medic, executive, synthetic, or scout. Each role also comes with a corresponding avatar card, like so. So each player will select one. You can do that randomly. You can have players choose however you want to do. For your first game, if you're just playing 3 players, it suggests using the gunner, technician, and researcher. So those are the ones I'm going to choose. I'll put the rest back in the box. And just to mention, if it's your first game, if you're playing 4 or 5 players, it also suggests using the medic and the scout. But you can choose any of the roles that you want. The player will take the one that says avatar. That'll be their avatar character. They'll put that in front of them. That will it just says you start with the Let's Rock card, which is this one. It also has your health value, which if you ever take wounds equal to or above that health value, then you're dead and you're out of the game. This value here is not used in the basic game, it's used in the more advanced game. I'll mention what that is later, but we won't be going over the advanced rules. Your roll card just goes into your deck along with your grunts and specialists. So you see our technician here has 10 health and our researcher here has 9 health. Next you'll take your 10 sergeant cards. They're all the same except for they may have a different class icon, which we'll talk about what those are later, but otherwise their ability on these cards are all the same, and as I said, all the cards have the same back. You'll shuffle those up and put them here on the player mat where it says Sergeant face down. Alright, so I've shuffled those and placed them there. Next you'll take your deck of strike cards. They all say strike up here at the top, and they also say strike deck down here. You'll shuffle that deck up and then place it face down here in this space for strikes. And so I've shuffled that and placed that here. Next you'll take your 14 hatchery cards. You've got some face hugger and chest burster cards, and you'll notice they say hatchery deck down here. You'll take those don't need to be shuffled. You'll just place them face up here where it says hatchery. When you need one of those cards, you'll just get the specific one you need. Next, you'll pick a location card. The rules suggest for your first game to pick the Nostromo from the first Alien movie. The game comes with cards, locations, objectives, and characters for the first 4 Alien movies: Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. And uh, you can play the movies, play all the characters, location, objectives that go with the Alien movie, and then play, the ones for Aliens movie, and then for another game you can play the ones for Aliens 3 movies. So you can do them in order like that, or you can mix and match. You can play a location from Aliens, and then objectives from Alien Resurrection, and then characters from a mixture of the movies, however you want to do it. But if you want to play the movies kind of in the order they are, and then suggested in the rules for your first game to play the characters, objectives, and location from the Alien movie, and that's what we're going to set up for here. So the rest of these locations can go back in the box. Next, you'll get 3 objective cards. You have to have 1 objective 1, 1 objective 2, and 1 objective 3 card. If you're playing the movies, then for the first movie you'll need objective 1, SOS, objective 2, No One Can Hear You Scream, and objective 3, The Perfect Organism. You'll take those and put those face up, starting with objective 1 on the top and objective 3 on the bottom, here on the space that says objectives. But you can mix and match these however you want, as long as you have at least 1 objective 1, 1 objective 2, and 1 objective 3. But again, we're going to play through movie 1, so we'll use the 3 objectives that correspond to that and are suggested in the rules for your first game. Alright, next you'll build your hive deck. To do that, you'll find the mini decks that go along with each objective. So remember, our objective 1 is the SOS. So there is a mini deck of cards, and you'll see that they say the SOS 1 on here. There'll be 9 of those. Each of them say the SOS. So you'll find the 9 cards that go with mini deck for your first objective. Our second objective is No One Can Hear You Scream. So you'll find your mini deck of 11 cards that go along with that. Again, you'll see here it says No One Can Hear You Scream 2. So there's 11 cards. You'll find that mini deck. And then for our third objective, we have the Perfect Organism. And there's 13 mini cards in that mini deck. So you'll take all of those out. So you'll have 3 mini decks, 1 that goes along with each objective. You will also find your drone deck. It'll say drone deck on the bottom. You'll see this is it. It's got quite a few cards in it. You'll shuffle that up. Put that face down. Start with your mini deck for your third objective. So in this case, the Perfect Organism. You'll take that, and then you'll add 1 drone card to that deck for each player. So we're playing a 3-player game, so we'll add 3 drone cards to our mini deck, and then we'll shuffle that up. Once you have that shuffled, you'll put that as the bottom part of your hive. You'll then get your mini deck for your second objective. So in this case, that's our No One Can Hear You Scream mini deck. You'll flip that over and add 1 drone card from the drone deck for each player. So again, in a 3-player game, we'll add 3. We'll shuffle that up and place that on top of our mini deck we've already placed. Finally, we take the mini deck for our first objective, flip that over. Again, add 1 card from the drone deck for each player, so a total of 3. We'll shuffle that up, put that on top, and that will complete our hive deck. So when you're done, you'll have 1 hive deck that will have your objective 3 cards somewhere in the bottom, objective 2 cards in the middle, and objective 1 cards on the top. The rest of the drone cards that you didn't use, you can just place back in the box. Next we'll form our barracks deck, and that is formed by using 16 different character decks that come in the game. Each character deck has 14 cards in it. You'll choose 4 of those characters and all their cards to form your barracks deck. You can choose whichever characters you want, but if you want to play through the movies, you'll choose characters from the specific movie. So in this case, the rules stay for your first game. Since we're playing the movie Alien, you should choose the 4 characters from that movie. So that will be Warrant Officer Ripley, so you'll take the 14 cards from the Warrant Officer Ripley deck. Captain Dallas, so you'll take the 14 cards in their character deck. Chief Engineer Parker, so you'll take the 14 cards from their character deck. And finally, Navigator Lambert, so you'll take the 14 cards from their character deck. You will shuffle all those cards together to form your barracks deck. Alright, so we've got that good and shuffled together and formed our barracks deck. Next we'll place the top 5 cards from the barracks into the HQ space here. Each player will then shuffle their 13 card deck. That will form their draw deck, and then they'll deal themselves or draw themselves a hand of 6 cards. So each player has their hand of 6 cards. Of course, they would be in their hand and not laying flat on the table. And then you just choose a player to go first, and then you'll go in clockwise order after that. We'll choose our player over here. The gunner will be our first player. But other than that, we're set up and ready to learn how to play the game. Alright, so the goal of the game for the players, it's cooperative, or at least in the basic game it's cooperative. So they'll be trying to work together to complete the 3 objectives. They have to complete objective 1 before they complete objective 2, and then finally objective 3. So objective 1 for the SOS is find both parts of the SOS. Now, when you're initially playing, you may not know what that means to find both parts of the SOS. But usually if you don't know exactly what you need to do to complete the objective, it'll become clear as you play through. And I'll just mention in this, as you reveal cards in the Hive deck, those are going to be, 2 of them are going to be parts of the SOS. Once you've found the second part of the SOS, then you'll go on to objective 2. And we'll talk about we saw a vent on there. We'll talk about that later. So anyway, the goal for the players is to complete the objectives. If the players will be attacked by the aliens as they play, and if they take wounds, as we talked about earlier, or damage equal to their equal to or greater to their health, they'll be eliminated. If all 3 players are eliminated before the 3rd objective is completed, then they lose and the game wins. Alright, well, let's talk about what a player can do on their turn. So, starting with our starting player, there will be 4 phases that each player does on their turn. You'll have the Hive phase, then the action phase, followed by the strike phase, and finally the cleanup phase, and then it will go on to the next player. So the first thing that happens in the Hive phase is that a player will take a Hive card without looking at it and put it on the first available space here in the complex. Now, of course, on the first turn, the available space is clear, but on like the next player's turn, when they go to draw a card from the Hive and place it, since there's one in the ventilation shafts already, they'll have to move that down and then replace it with another one. And so as the rounds go, cards will get shoved down, more cards will get placed, and eventually a card, when the card in the airlock gets revealed or needs to get moved down to allow room for new cards in the complex, then it will be flipped over and revealed and put in the combat zone. And that's when any alien monsters that are in the combat zone are allowed to strike and attack players, or the player whose turn it is, in the strike phase. But we'll get to that later. But the first thing that happens is the hive phase, and as I said, the player whose turn it is will take the first card of the hive without looking at it and place it face down in the first available, or in the first space, moving down any other card that is already in that space. Now, if there was a card here but there wasn't one here, then the player would place the new hive card here, and this one would not get moved down. When another card is placed, since there is space there, that one will get moved down, but this one would just get placed here. This one would not get moved down. Now, the next time a card is placed, because there isn't room or a space, they would all have to get moved down to place the next one. Okay, so that's the hive phase, pretty simple. Then the player goes on to the action phase, where they will play the cards in their hand, and they'll use them to recruit new players from the barracks, or new cards, new characters from the barracks, or they'll use them to scan cards that are in the complex, or they'll use them to fight enemies. So first, let's take a look at these cards. So this is just the name of the card. This one's Grunt. This one is the character name. In this case, it's just character, but if we were looking at, one of these from the barracks, you'll see that the name is Captain Dallas. That's the name of the character. This symbol right here is the crew symbol. This symbol means it's the Colonial Marines. But you'll see all of the cards up here in the barracks have this symbol, which is for the Nostromo, crew of the Nostromo. This icon down here is the cost to recruit this character. These cards you are dealt at the start of the game, so they have no cost, but you'll see that the cards up here in the barracks do have a recruit cost, which is this icon in the lower right. This symbol right here is recruit points, so cards that you play with these symbols here give you recruit points that you can then spend towards the cost of cards in the barracks. This symbol, it's kind of like some claw marks and a number. That's an attack value, so this grunt generates an attack value of 1. You can use attack value to fight monsters, or also to scan cards up in the complex. You'll see this, to scan a card in this space, the airlock, costs you 2 attack. You would have to spend 2 attack worth of cards to scan a card. When you scan a card, you flip it over. So when this card is first placed in the complex, if you wanted to scan that card and reveal it, it would cost you 4 attack value. So you'd have to generate, here we just have 1 in this guy's hand, 2. This one was a little special. We'll look at that one. But anyway, you would have to have 4 attack to flip that card over and see what's there. There are some other icons on the top left of some of these cards. This one's like a green fist. You can see some of these other cards in the barrack have icons in them, and those are class, character class icons. This icon is Intel. This one here is Leadership. This one is Tech. This one we saw down here on this Let's Rock card is Strength. And there is one other one, and I'll just find an example of it on this Sergeant card, but this red one, that is Survival. So these crew and class abilities come into play when you're playing a card that has an ability such as this. Um, in order to be able to use this ability, so this card gives you, 2 attack, and if you've previously played a card on this same turn, if you've previously played a card that has this leadership icon, now you can't use the one that's on the card you're playing, but if you had one in your hand and previously, played it during this turn that had that icon, then you would be able to trigger this effect, which gives you an additional 2 attack. So there'll be abilities on some of these character cards that require a certain class or a certain crew symbol in order to trigger their ability. So getting back to the player's action phase, they'll play cards from their hand. They can play some or all of them. So for instance, this player, he's got these 2 specialists, which just give them recruit points. Well, he's got 3, so he could play those 3 cards to recruit Navigator Lambert here. When you take a card from the barracks, it's got a cost of 3. When you take one, you immediately put it in your discard pile. So we'll just say this player's discard pile is right here. And then whenever you've taken a card from the barracks, you immediately refill it with another one. Because if you still had more cards in your hand that were going to give you more recruit points, you would be able to recruit again from the available. You'll always have 5 cards available as long as there's that many cards that you can draw from the barracks. So you can play cards that give you recruit points to recruit other characters from the barracks and place them in your discard pile when you'll get them. Then this guy could play this card, his Let's Rock card, which lets him first draw a card from his draw deck and add that to his hand. And then he gets attack equal to the current objective number. Well, the current objective is 1, so this would be worth an attack value of 1. And he drew a grunt, so that gives him 3 more attack. So he would have a total of 4 attack. So he could spend those now to, since there's no monsters available or no aliens available to attack, you can always attack any revealed aliens that are in the combat zone or up here in the complex. But there are none revealed currently. But he does have 4 attacks, so he could spend that to scan and look at what's there, and then we revealed this egg. Now this particular card, it says this alien does not move or strike. So in other words, when the next Hive card is revealed on the next player's turn, this one won't shift down. This card will just get placed into the power station instead of into the ventilation shaft. If this was down here when it was revealed, then as a card, if there was a card here that needed to get shift or down, it would just hop over. And then this says if an event card is revealed, while this is available, still face up either in the complex or in the combat zone, then you would have to do this, kill this alien and put a face hugger from the hatchery in front of you. So those are the face huggers. And we'll talk more about those later. But you'll see that this alien has an attack value there of 3. So that is how much attack a player has to spend in order to kill that enemy. So in this case, it's an egg. This player wouldn't have any attack left because they spent their 4 to scan it, and so it would be revealed here. But now they're out of cards. They wouldn't be able to they don't have another 3 that they could spend to attack that and get rid of that enemy at this time. But another player could do that on their turn. So if any enemies that are face up, either in the complex or in the combat zone, a player on their turn, if they have enough attack that they can, defeat it, if their attack value they can generate from their cards is equal to or greater than the attack value on that card, then they can defeat it. And if they have enough to defeat 2 or 3 cards that are in the complex or the combat zone, as long as they have enough attack to defeat all of those, then they do. And when you defeat an alien, you just move it over here, or an enemy, you just move it over here to the dead enemies. So since I mentioned if this card is sitting in the complex or in the combat zone, and an event card comes up, then you trigger this. So event cards will get revealed from the hive deck as they're moved down the complex. If somebody scans them and reveals them, then you have to trigger any event on cards. Or the objective also always has an event. So in this case, if you've got objective 1 and an event card is revealed, then you do this rough landing. You and the next player each draw a strike. And we'll talk about strikes here in a minute when we get to the strike phase. So I think I mentioned as cards move down the complex, if they're not scanned, they won't be revealed until if a card is in the airlock and would have to move down to make room for another hive card, then it's moved down here to the combat zone, and it is always revealed once it's moved to the combat zone. And the combat zone can always hold any number of cards. When a new card would be placed in here, you just move any that already exist over to the right, so new cards will be placed to the left of older cards. Some hive cards may have a reveal ability, so whenever they're revealed, either because they were scanned in the complex or because they moved down to the combat zone and are automatically revealed, whatever reveal effect they say, that'll be carried out whenever, at which point they are revealed. As you're going through the hive deck, you'll eventually reveal events like we just talked about. You'll also reveal a hazard card, and they have a card face similar to this. Whenever you reveal a hazard card, you'll look at your location. The first hazard card you reveal, you'll do whatever hazard 1 says. For instance, this one says, brought something back, add 2 hive cards to the complex. So you would immediately add 2 more cards to the complex, shifting down any that need to. The second hazard card you reveal, you'll do hazard 2, and the third hazard card you reveal, you'll do hazard 3. Now, most of the cards that get revealed from the hive are bad. They're either enemies or events that usually are bad, or hazards. But there are a few cards that are good for the players in there, and when you reveal them, they usually give you some effect, some benefit, and we'll see that probably as we go through the example turns. So once a player has played all the cards they want to, you may have some cards in your hand that you don't want to play for some reason or another, so you're not required to play every card in your hand. But you play the cards that you want to play, spending the recruit points and attack points as you see fit. Once you've finished doing your action phase, playing all the cards you want to play, then you move on to the strike phase. So in the strike phase, the player whose turn it is will have to draw 1 strike card for every enemy that's in the combat zone, starting with the enemy that's furthest to the right. So in this case, we just have 1 strike card in there. So we would just have to draw we just have 1 card in the combat zone, so we would just have to draw 1 strike. So in this case, we would draw this one, and you'll see luckily it's no damage, and you just discard this. Any discarded strike cards go here into the discarded strikes, but most of them will do some sort of damage. Let's just look at another one. Okay, here, this one, Brutal Puncture. It's going to do 3 damage to this player. So you'll just keep those near your avatar card, and if ever you accumulate enough strikes with damage equal to or greater than your health, then your character dies. Now, luckily there are some cards you can get that you'll end up getting from the barracks that allow you to heal some strikes, though there are some strikes that say they cannot be healed. And again, we'll probably see that in our example turns. Once you've completed the strike phase, where again you're drawing one strike card for each enemy that's in the combat zone, so you don't want to let a lot of enemies build up in the combat zone. You want to try to eliminate them while they're still up in the complex if possible. But anyway, once you complete the strike phase, then you go to the cleanup phase where you will discard all the cards you played, any cards that remain in your hand, into your discard pile. That'll go on top of any cards you recruited this turn, and then you'll draw 6 new cards into your hand. If you ever have to draw cards into your hand and your draw deck is empty, then you'll shuffle your discard pile and form a new draw deck and draw from that any remaining cards you still need to draw. Then, once you've done that, that's the cleanup phase, and you'll move on to the next player turn in clockwise order, and they'll do those same steps. All right, let's talk a little bit more about some of these cards, some abilities on the cards. Now, the Sergeant cards, as I mentioned, they're all the same, other than they have different class icons on each of them. But otherwise, they all are, they give you 2 recruit points, and they have the keyword coordinate. And you'll notice some of these other cards here in the barracks have the keyword coordinate on them also. So let's talk about what that does. If you have a coordinate card, the player, and you're not the active player, you can basically let the active player borrow the abilities of that card and use it as if they played it. So if this player, if this player had this coordinate card in their hand and it was this player's turn, and maybe they needed more attack value than they had to defeat a certain enemy. Maybe they have 2 attack and they need 5. Well, this player has a coordinate with 3 attack on it. So they can say, I'm coordinating this card. They just lay it down. The player whose turn it is can then use this card as if they had played it. So not only do they get the 3 attack, they get the ability of the class icon and crew icon up here too, so that they may have a card that they could play that has an ability that requires either that crew icon or that class icon having been played. Well, then they get those plus the 3 attack. Now, whenever you coordinate a card, put one down to coordinate, you immediately draw another card into your hand. So you'll still have 6 cards in your hand when it becomes your turn. Once the player whose turn it is has finished, then you take the card you coordinated with and put it into your discard pile. So it's basically just letting another player borrow the abilities of that card, but they don't actually get that card. But of course, then you don't have that particular card on your turn. If you have this in your hand, you can play it. You don't have to coordinate with it. You just have the ability to coordinate with it. But you could still play this card on your turn for 3 attack. Just if it does have the coordinate ability, you can use it to coordinate with another player, but you don't have to. So as you're playing, if and when you do complete the initial objective for the objective you're playing, you can just take that card out or just slip it behind the other 2 objective cards, whatever you need to do, and reveal whatever the next objective is. It will tell you whatever is required to complete that objective, and it'll have a different event that will trigger when event cards are revealed. If it has some setup or when revealed ability on it, you'll do that as well whenever you first reveal it. Whenever you get to the 3rd objective, it will have 1 or more enemies that you must kill in order to win the game. And this one, you have to kill the perfect organism, which is one of the enemies in the hive. And you cannot if the final enemy is revealed before you've revealed the third objective, you cannot attack the final enemy. So it can only be attacked once the third objective is revealed. And in fact, the rules even say if you reveal the final enemy before you've completed Objective 2, then you're probably in trouble and not likely to win the game. So let's talk a little bit now about the face huggers and chest bursters. So if you remember, we had this egg enemy card, and if it's revealed and an event card is revealed, then it says you kill this alien and put a face hugger from the hatchery in front of you. So whichever player reveals the event would then place this in the dead enemies, take one of these face huggers, and place it somewhere next to their avatar in their play area. And that, represents the face huggers being attached to you. And you'll see that it says here, reveal, put this in front of you. Any player can fight it on their turn. If it's still alive at the end of the next turn, kill it and gain a chest burster from the hatchery. So when you get this, if you still have 3 attack worth of cards that you haven't played yet, you can go ahead and kill it immediately. But if not, then the next player whose turn it is can spend 3 attack to go ahead and kill it. But at the end of that player's turn, if nobody has killed that face hugger, then you go ahead and kill it, and you put a chest burster, and you place that chest burster into your discard pile. Now you'll see here that it says when you gain this, kill all face huggers in front of you, which we already talked about. And then this goes in your discard pile. While this is in your deck or discard pile, enemies won't strike you because you're impregnated with one of them, so they're not going to attack you. So during the strike phase, you won't get attacked, or any other phase that would cause you to get striked. The enemies won't strike you while this is in your discard pile or your deck. And any new face hugger that would normally jump onto you will jump into the next player in clockwise order. However, when you draw this from your draw deck, then you die and you're immediately out of the game. Unless you're playing with some of the advanced rules where then you can re-enter the game as an alien player. But again, the basic rules which we're going over here, that doesn't happen. So if you draw a chest burster from your draw deck, then you just are immediately out of the game. And that really covers all the rules you need to know to begin playing Legendary Encounters Alien. As I said, you'll just continue taking turns in clockwise order until either all the players are killed because they've taken strikes equal or greater to their health. Once you've done that, then you're just out of the game. You can't play any more cards or use any more cards. You're just out. If all 3 players get eliminated, then that way, then they just lose the game. But if they do manage to complete the final objective, which usually is killing a certain alien or aliens, or enemy, I guess I should say enemies, then the players win the game collectively. All right, I think I'm going to set this back up to how it was right after setup, which I think I'm about there anyway, and we'll go through some example turns. All right, so we got everything set back to how it was right after we did setup. So we'll start with our first player's turn here, and it'll kind of go like it did when we were going over the rules. So first thing is we'll do the hive phase. So we have to draw a card from the hive and place it in the first space there, the ventilation shafts. Now we go to the action phase. So this player has these cards in his hand. So I think the first card he's going to play is this Let's Rock, which lets him draw a card. He'll draw a card into his hand. And this is now worth, as we said, he gets attack equal to the current objective number. The current objective is 1, so this is worth 1 attack. So we'll just play his other attacks down here that he had in his hand. So he's got a total of 4 attack. We'll go ahead and spend that to scan this card, which we know is the egg, so this one doesn't move. And if an event comes up, then that would bring a face hugger. So we'll want to kill that before then. But we don't have any more attack. The only thing we have left is these three specialists, which give us recruit points. So we have 3 recruit points. So we'll take this Navigator Lambert, goes in our discard pile. We'll replace that with a new card. That's going to end our action phase. We're out of cards. So now we go to the strike phase. There's no enemies in the combat zone, so we don't get any strikes. So now we go to the cleanup phase, where we discard the cards that we played in our hand, put them into our discard pile, and draw a new hand of 6 cards. Alright, and that will cause our draw deck to be empty, so the next time we have to draw cards, we don't do it now, but the next time we have to draw a card, we'll shuffle our discard pile and then create a new draw deck. Alright, that is going to end his turn. Alright, so now we come to our researcher. It's his turn, or her turn. First thing she will do is the hive phase, so she will draw a card. Now remember, this one says this alien does not move or strike, so it's just going to stay here. So this card will, in fact, it says it doesn't strike, so I was kind of, when I was doing my rules overview, I was saying that that would, do a strike, but it doesn't. Anyway, so that card will just go there. Now they'll go to their action phase, so let's see what cards they have in this hand. This one lets them draw cards equal to the current objective number. Well, our current objective is 1, so they get to draw 1 card into their hand. And let's see, if they can spend 3 strike or 3 attack, which they can, they will attack this egg and defeat it. So that will go into the dead enemies pile. That leaves them with 1 other strike, but there's nothing or 1 other attack, but there's nothing they can really do with that. They would need at least 3 to scan, but they don't have that. They already spent 3 to defeat that egg, so that just leaves them with 1 left. But they do have 2 recruit. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can recruit for 2. Sergeants cost at least 3, so that's pretty much all they can do. So now we would move on to the strike phase, but there's nothing in the combat zone to strike. So they'll just go to the cleanup phase, discard everything in their hand, and draw 6 cards back. And just like the other player, if they have to draw any other cards, they'll have to shuffle up their discard pile. And all of this is explained here on the mat on the turn order, the hive phase, and exactly how it works. Alright, we come to our next player here. First thing is the hive phase, so we'll have to take a card from the hive, place it here in the ventilation shafts. Nothing has to shift down. Alright, we go to the action phase, so we'll see what this player has. Well, let me just see. Alright, they've got 3 specialists, giving them 3 recruit points. So they can't get any of these cards in the barracks, but they can get a sergeant. All sergeants cost 3 recruit points. They all have the same abilities, as I said, but they do have different class icons. So that'll go into their discard pile. He gives, 2 recruit points when he's in a hand, and he can coordinate with another player to give them recruit points. And then this player has 3 attack in their hand, so they'll spend their 3 attack to scan the power station here. So that means we flip this over. Oh, when this one has a reveal power, reveal, move this to operations. So that moves down here. We'll see that it is part of the SOS objective goal. So that's part 1. Remember, we had to find both parts of the SOS. So we found 1 part here. This is the operations area. So it says move this to operations. Once you found both parts of the SOS, discard them and complete the objective. So that's good. We've already found 1 part of the SOS. So that was good that we scanned that. And that's really going to end our action phase. We don't have anything else that we can play. We go to the strike phase, but we've got no enemies in the combat zone. So we go to the cleanup phase, discard these, and draw 6 new cards. So we've drawn 6 new cards. They still have 1 in their draw deck because the other players played a card that allowed them to draw a card. That's why this one still has 1, because he did not have a card that allowed him to draw a card. But that's going to end his turn, and then we'll go back to the starting player. So starting player's turn, hive phase. He'll have to select, move a card into the ventilation shaft, so we have to shift 1 down. So early on it's not too bad, but it does get pretty hairy later on. Anyway, alright, on to the action phase. So let's see what cards this player got. Alright, well they got 2 attack, which they can't really do anything with because there's nothing to reveal to attack and there's no card to scan for only 2, so nothing they can really do with those. They did get 4 recruit points, so I think they're going to spend that, and they will, they could either get Captain of the Ship, Captain Dallas, or Chief Parker here. Chief Parker's a coordinate, so that might be helpful in the future. So I think we're going to take that. That will go into our discard pile. And that is pretty much all we can do for our action phase. We don't have anything else. Oh, we forgot to replace this card. We spent all our recruit. We can't do anything with our attack. So we go on to the strike phase. Nothing in the combat zone, so nothing's going to strike. So we go to the cleanup phase, where we'll discard these cards. Now we need to draw 6 more, so we'll have to shuffle up our discard pile and then draw 6. Alright, so we shuffled our discard pile, drew 6 cards. We didn't get any of our new ones, unfortunately, but that's alright, and we'll move on to the next player. Alright, hive phase first, so we'll have to put a new card in the ventilation shaft, so those 2 will shift down. We'll put a new one there. We need to get some of these scanned if possible. Alright, we go to the action phase, so let's see what this player has. Well, they got 5 specialists, so that gives them 5 recruit. So I guess they'll spend 4 to get Captain Dallas here. So that will go into their discard pile. We'll replace that with a new card from the barracks. And that just leaves them with 1 attack, which they can't do anything with. They can't scan with 1, and there's no enemy to attack. And if there was, it would cost more than 1, I'm sure, to kill it anyway. So that's really all this player can do. Nothing in the combat zone, so nothing to strike. So we go to the cleanup phase, so we just discard all these cards. They need to draw 6, so they'll have to shuffle their discard pile. Alright, drawn their 6 new cards. They did get one of their new ones, so that's good. That's worth 2 attack, and if they had another leadership, which they won't, they would get an additional 2. But anyway, that ends that player's turn. We now move on to this player. So first thing they'll have to do is the hive phase. So now we're getting dangerously close to some of these making their way to the combat zone. So now we move on to the action phase. This player is going to play their technician, which lets them draw a card, and they get recruit equal to the current objective. We're still on objective 1, so they'll have a recruit of 1 from this. But they do get to draw a card. That's their last card. They'll draw that into their hand, and that's worth 1 recruit. So let's play this card for another recruit. This card for another recruit. That's 3, 4, 5 recruit that they've got. So what could they get for 5? Well, they can get this first aid for 3. So we'll take that. It goes into their discard pile. We replace this one. They still have 2 recruit left over, so they can get this quarantine procedure. So they'll take that one, and we'll replace that. Alright, so they've spent their 5 recruit points. The only thing they have left is 2 attack from those grunts. They'll use that 2 attack to scan here in the med lab. They will flip this over, So it's an enemy that costs 2 to kill, and it has this ability that when it dies, each player kills one of their characters. So, so to kill one of your characters, you can kill one that's in your hand or one that you've already played into your play area this turn. Any of them that say character or any of these are character cards as well. So pretty much any of the any of the cards in your hand are characters. So when you kill it, you have to put it in the dead characters pile over here. So you're basically losing a card. It can be good to get rid of some of these, beginning cards that you got because they're, lower level and get them out of your deck so you're not drawing them as often. But sometimes it'll say recruit or kill a character that has at least a cost of 1 or something. So then that doesn't let you get rid of your basic characters, and you have to get one of the ones that you spent recruit points on, and then that's not quite as good. But anyway, that's what happens when this enemy is killed. But he spent his only 2 attack to scan that med lab, so he doesn't have enough to kill it. So that's all he's going to be able to do. So that's going to end his action phase. There's still nothing in the combat zone, so nothing happens in the strike phase. Go to our cleanup phase, so we'll have to discard these cards. Needs to draw back up to 6. Doesn't have any, so we'll have to shuffle the deck and draw 6. Alright, he's drawn his 6 cards back. That will end his turn, and we'll go back to our first player again. We'll do a few more turns so we kind of get to where there's some enemies in the combat zone and we see some strikes. Alright, so the first thing we have to do is the hive phase. So this one's going to move down. All these will move down, and we'll get another one into the ventilation shafts. Alright, our player here will spend these 2 grunts for 2 attack to kill this acid spraying xenomorph. So it'll go over here into our dead enemies. But now we have to do this. Each player kills one of their characters. So we can do it from one we've played this turn or one that's in their hand. I think this player is going to kill... he'll kill one of these specialists, so that goes into the dead characters. These are going to have to kill one from their hand, so I think this guy's going to do the same, one of these specialists. And this guy will do the same, one of these specialists. So, alright, they each killed one of their characters. Okay, but that leaves this guy with these 3. So that leaves him with 3 recruit points. And we'll just... we'll say he's going to take a sergeant. So he gets Sergeant Apone that's got the leadership class up there. That's going to do it for him. There's nothing in the combat zone, so no strike. Discard these cards and draw 6 more. He got a pretty good draw, several of his new character cards. Alright, but that's going to end his turn. We go on to the researcher's turn now. She's got to do the hive phase, so all these will shift down. New one will come out here. Alright, now she's going to do her action phase. She's going to spend these 2 grunts for 2 attack to scan the airlock. Uh-oh, event. Alright, so none of the cards out have event, but we do have the objective that has an event. You and the next player each draw a strike. So this player has to draw a strike, so we draw this top strike. No, 2. This strike can't be healed. So she can take up to 9, but she's got 2 now. And the next player, it said you and the next player, so this player has to draw a strike. He got the deep gash for 2 damage, but this one can be healed if possible in the future. Alright, so that was the event. This event now just gets discarded over into the hazard and events space. Alright, so this player has this captain of the ship. It's worth 2 strike or 2 attack. If they had played a leadership card, a card with a leadership symbol, before playing this one, then they would get an additional 2 attack, but they don't have another card in their hand with a leadership symbol, so unfortunately they can't get that right now. So they'll spend that 2 attack to scan the med lab. You'll see it costs 2 to scan there. So they reveal that. That's an egg. I'm glad we got rid of that before that event came out. And that just leaves them with 2 recruit points. And there's nothing they can do with 2 recruit points. Sergeants cost 3. So that's all they're going to be able to do. Strike phase, there's still nothing in the combat zone yet. So we go to the cleanup phase. They'll discard these and draw 6 new cards into their hand. Alright, that brings us to the technician. First they got to do their hive phase. This card does not move or strike, so this one will hop over. These will slide down. This one will go here. Alright, now they go to their action phase. They got their right tool for the job card, which lets them draw a card, so they'll draw that. And then it gives them recruit equal to the current objective. We're still on objective 1, so that'll be worth 1 recruit. Alright. They'll spend these other 2 recruits, so that gives them a total of 3 recruit. And I guess they'll take Navigator Lambert here. I'll put that in their discard pile. Now we reveal another card. Alright, and now they have 1, 2, 3 attack that they can use to scan. Or attack. They're going to attack this egg because it costs 3, so they're going to go ahead and kill that with their 3 attack. Just put that in the discarded enemies. That will end their turn. They don't have any other cards. Strike phase, still nothing in the combat zone, so nothing to strike. So now they'll go to their cleanup phase, discard these, and draw 6 more. Alright, I want to keep going until at least we get something in the combat zone. Fortunately, that's not going to happen on this turn. It's our first player's turn, so they got to do their hive phase. That's going to shift this down here, this down here, this down here, and put something in the ventilation shaft. Now they go to their action phase. They're going to play their Let's Rock to draw a card, so they'll put that in their hand. And they get attack equal to the current objective number. We're still on objective 1, so this will be worth 1 attack. They'll go ahead and spend another attack to scan this, so that gives them 2 attack. They can scan here. Oh, and they got part 2 of the SOS. So move this to operations. Once you found both parts of the SOS, discard them and complete the objective. So we completed objective 1. We'll just put that back behind here. Now we're on objective 2, which our objective is to block the ventilation shafts. We don't know quite how to do that yet. I will tell you that there's a card in the hive that allows you to do that. Alright, so they've spent 2 attack to scan there. Let's see, I got, what else we got? We can spend this one for another 2 attack to scan the med lab, so we'll do that. Event. So we look at the event here on our second objective. It says event, people are disappearing. The next player discards 2 random cards from their hand. So that means this player over here, let me shuffle up their hand and discard 2 random. Alright, so they don't have to get rid of them, they're just discarding them, but that's going to leave them less cards to play on their turn. Alright, but that moves this over to the discarded events, so we still have 2 spaces there. Alright, but it's, this player still has cards to play. He has another attack, and then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 recruit, so they'll spend those 4 recruit to, they'll take this repair the ship, that'll go into their discard pile, and we'll put a new card from the barracks there. And that's really all they can do. They have 1 attack they haven't spent, but there's nothing they can do with it. Nothing in the combat zone to strike, so we go to cleanup phase. These will go into the discard pile. We'll draw 6 new cards. There's only 2 in there, so now I'll have to shuffle and draw my remaining 4. Alright, move on to our next player, the researcher. She's got to do her hive phase, so we got to shift these down, put another card in the ventilation shafts. Alright, now she moves on to her action phase. Remember, she's only got 4 cards because she had to discard 2 because of that event. She's going to spend 2 attack to scan the med lab. We got a Xenomorph Stalker. This alien can't be fought if there's a hidden card next to it. So that means as long as it's in the complex and there's a face-down card next to it, you can't fight it. Alright, but it only does take 1 to kill it once that's not the case. Alright, and finally they just have 2 recruit, but there's nothing they can spend to recruit on, so that's going to be it for their action phase. Still nothing in the combat zone, so nothing in the strike phase. They'll discard this, draw 6 cards into their hand. They've only got 2, so now they'll have to shuffle and draw their remaining 4. Alright, we'll come to our next player, hive phase. Everything's got to shift down. Stuff almost makes it to the combat zone, but not quite, does it? Alright, so now we've got to go on to this player's action phase. Alright, they're going to spend 2 attack. Unfortunately, they can't attack this one. That only costs 1 to kill because there's a hidden enemy next to it, but they're going to scan here with their 2 attack. And that there's an egg. So now this one can be fought because there's not a hidden card next to it. Unfortunately, they don't have any other attack. Now they just have recruit points, so they're going to spend 2, 3, 4, 5. Now they can't use this heal ability. You may heal a strike from any player because one of the previous cards they played that does not have that survival icon, so they can't use that ability. But anyway, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 recruit that they can spend. So I think they're going to get this review the nav data, Navigator Lambert. Put that in their discard pile. And we replace this. Alright, now we go on to the strike phase. Nothing in the combat zone, so nothing strikes. Cleanup phase. Discard these cards. Draw back up to 6. 1, 2, 3. We'll have to shuffle and get their last 3. Alright, on to our first player here. Hive phase. So now the hive is full, so this card will move down to the combat zone. This one doesn't move, so this will move over here. This will move here, this will move here, and then we'll put one from the hive into the ventilation shafts. Alright, this player is going to play their Let's Rock card, which lets them draw a card and gives them attack equal to the current objective. We're on objective 2, so that gives them 2 attack from this card. So they're going to go ahead and scan here. Uh-oh, hazard. So we look at the first hazard. Since this is the first hazard card, add 2 hive cards to the complex. Well, first this gets discarded, thank goodness, over here. So we got to add 2. So the first one's going to move this over here, this one will move here, this is going to move here, this one will move here. Now we got to add another one. So this one is going to move down into the combat zone. This one's going to move here, 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 and here. So now we have an egg here and an egg here, and this alien here. Okay, now this player is going to spend these 2 grunts for 2 attack, and well, he'll spend one of them for 1 attack to kill this Xenomorph Stalker. So he'll just put that in the dead enemies. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any other attack, and this one costs 3 to get rid of. But he does have some recruit, so he will spend that. He can't use this scan any room ability because he hasn't played another card with that icon prior, but that gives him 2, 3, 4, 5 recruit. He'll take this Chief Parker, put that in his discard pile. We'll replace that. Okay, now we move on. That's all the actions he can do in his action phase. We move on to the strike phase. There is one card in there, but this one does not strike. So normally, if there's an enemy in here, you would have to draw a strike card for each enemy in the combat zone, but this says this alien does not move or strike. So now we just move to the cleanup phase. Move those in here, draw 6. We'll finish this round and then wrap it up. Alright, it's the researcher's turn. So hive phase. So this one's going to move down here. This one's going to move over here, 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 and here. This one costs 4 to kill, and when it dies you can scan any room. Alright, so he is going to... He's not going to be able to use this ability because he doesn't have any cards that he can play prior with the leadership. But he's going to spend that and this for a total of 3 attack, and he's going to get rid of this egg. He's going to put it in the dead enemies there. This player says they're going to coordinate. So they're going to allow this, with this player they're going to coordinate. So that gives that player 3 attack, and this player immediately draws another card into their hand. So now this player can use this card as if they played it. So they will spend that 3 attack to get rid of this egg in the med lab. And then if they had something that used that ability, they would be able to use it. Unfortunately, they don't. They just have some specialists left now. So 1, 2, 3, 4 recruit points. They'll get this Chief Parker, so that goes into their discard pile, along with these. Oh wait, they gotta do a strike. They gotta get a strike first, because move to the strike phase. There is an enemy in there, so they have to draw a strike card. 2. They're already up to 4 out of their possible 9, so they're starting to get in trouble. Alright, now these go into their discard pile. This card that was coordinated goes into this player's discard pile, and now they got to draw 6 cards. Alright, we'll do this last turn and wrap this up. Alright, so it's the technician's turn here. First the hive phase, so this card... Oh no, we don't have to move one down. This one can move over. These can all move over, so nothing's going to move down into the combat zone, thank goodness. Unfortunately, this player really doesn't have any attacks. So they're going to play this. They can't use that ability because they didn't previously play a card with the scan icon. But that's going to give them 3, 4, 5 recruit points. Oh, we forgot to refill this. Yeah, well that's good. So they can recruit that. They actually had 6 recruit points, but there's nothing they could have got for 6 anyway. So they're still okay. And unfortunately, all we have is this. Oh, they can look at the top card of any player's deck and kill it or put it back. They're going to look at the top card of their deck. And I think they're going to put it back. They don't want to kill off this grunt yet. I don't think they have enough attack. But that just gives them 1 attack, which is not going to do them any good for anything. This one costs 4 to kill. So that's going to end their action phase. Now they've got to go to the strike phase. There is 1 enemy in here, so they have to draw 1 strike. And they got double slash. So they get this one that's 1 wound, which is going to give them 3, and they got to draw another strike, which gives them a contaminated gash with 2, and this can't be healed, so they've got a total of 5. They're halfway to their wound limit already. Alright, but now they go to cleanup phase, so they'll discard these and draw 6 more cards into their hand. Alright. I got kind of a mess going on here, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up now. We've seen how the game plays. I think it's a really fun game. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I haven't had a chance to play it with other players, which, I mean, playing it solo like this is fine, but I always think playing games with other players makes it more fun. So I would like to do that. Hopefully, at some point, play this with other players. I think I've played this game, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, and I've only beat it once. So I think, off camera, I'll try to finish off this game and see if I see if I manage to win. But anyway, I enjoy this game. I think it's fun. I need to play it more often. I'm glad I pulled it out again. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.